Germany's 2021 election orgy has started, with some tender caressing for the Greens and the SPD. The CDU and the AfD, meanwhile, must search their blackened souls to find favour with voters. Then, Megan and Konrad ask what happened to all those far-right extremists in the military. They've probably all been tracked down and sent to prison by now. Hooray! Everything will be fine again now.
It's another episode of Megan's Megacan. I'm Megan, I'm here with Ex-Berliner magazine and my lovely co-host Konrad Werner. Hello, Konrad.
Hello.
How are you today?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Me too. I think really that's fairly solid for this point.
Yeah, sort of not bad.
Not bad. We'll see what we're saying next week because I'm giving spring 1 week to arrive.
And then that's it.
That is it.
Did you get caught in the snow today? In the snow flurries?
I didn't actually. I got caught in some very cold wind and I'm done with it. I've had enough.
Enough of this. It's the combination of cold and ongoing pandemic with hundreds of people dying every day.
Yeah.
It can get you down.
It really can. Like, I did have this moment where I realised the numbers of people dying are still obviously like 250 people or whatever it is roughly a day. It's like still a lot of people were saying like they're going down because, you know, and you're like, I've been checking the death toll daily and this is not okay. And I've had a pretty easy pandemic ride.
Yeah, I know.
It must be awful for a lot more people. A lot more awful for a lot more people. Anyway, we've still got booze. Thank Christ. If they ever pull a South Africa on us, that is my number one fear. That they'll lock us down with no booze. Anyway, and excitingly, our Megacans this week are sponsored by Zum Böhmischen Dorf, which is our local. It's more local to me, but it's like our local as in the place we hang out all the time in peacetime.
Yeah.
It is a great bar. It's at Sanderstrasse 11. So the lovely Gemma, who manages the Dorf amongst a few of its sister bars, which are dotted around Berlin, just wants to say to everybody that they are making lots of preparations and stuff, and they're really waiting for the moment where they're going to be able to open their doors, or at least their terraces, to us all. So as soon as humanly possible, I will be there, and I think everyone else should be too.
I will definitely be there. I had great times there. I had a birthday party there once. It was amazing. I
think outside of my flat and my places of work, that is the place I've spent most time in, like the most hours in Berlin. And that is, like, I'm not joking. Like, that's just an actual statement of fact. So yes, Zum Böhmischen Dorf, Sanderstrasse 11, it's on the corner of Hobrechtstrasse. It's in Neukölln. It's great. Everyone who works there is lovely as well. I miss everyone. And I miss people who I only know because I see them in there all the time. I'm like, are they okay? Like, is everyone all right? Anyway, so Gemma has
sponsored us these.
Yeah, and we've got
Megacans.
Gemma's two favourite flavours, which are the classic JD and Coke, in her words, where it all began. Gemma is also the one who coined the phrase Megacan in a glass, which is what a whiskey and Coke is. And also berry flavour, which I am doing in honour of Gemma because I think I've had berry before and I did not care for it. But what Gemma wants, she will have.
Well, I can have the berry flavour because I had a whiskey and Coke last week. So I'm happy
I can't remember.
To have this berry flavour.
I don't know if I like berry or not, because I think I remember we did it when I was really sick, back in the time before where it would have been remotely socially acceptable for me to sit opposite you dosed with the cold, which obviously I wouldn't do now because it's disgusting.
Oh, so you think you associate berry and
I just
Jack
don't
Daniels
think
with...
I could taste it. I think that was the issue. But anyway, which one would you like?
I'll have the berry one.
All right. I'm quite excited for this one. I haven't had an JD and Coke for a while.
Here's to Gemma and the Dorf.
Here's to Gemma and the Dorf. I cannot wait for it to reopen.
Oh yeah.
God, that's delicious.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean about these.
Oh.
They taste a bit like well, I've only had one sip.
Take your second sip because we know that the first sip is misleading.
Do you remember Tunes, those cough sweets, Tunes.
Oh, I'm really glad I don't have that one.
Tastes
Anyway.
like an alcoholic version of Tunes.
Well, that sounds fine.
Do they still make Tunes? I don't know.
I don't know, mate. Did they? There was tunes and lockets. Lockets they definitely still make.
With the honey inside them. The honey probably wasn't real honey.
I think it was just goo.
Okay. Anyway. Move on from
Let's move on from our mindless wittering.
imperfect memory of sweets in the olden days. So,
Anyway.
Right. Only last week there was 2 very important elections in the Superwahljahr, super election year, as everyone's calling it now. That means there are 6 state elections and 1 federal election, as well as a few little local elections going on this year.
Yeah, there's loads of them.
And these are probably more important than other years because we know that Angela Merkel will not stand again for the CDU, so we will have a new chancellor for the first time since 2005. But
Jesus!
it'll only be the 4th chancellor since like 1982. Like Germany getting a new chancellor is like
That's a big deal.
Halley's Comet, and that's going to happen later this year. And it's all very exciting. This is why all these local elections are very exciting, is because all the parties like want to build up momentum leading into the big one.
Okay. So
the state elections don't actually decide
no.
who is going to be chancellor, but they build up momentum and they decide who is going to be the government in these different states.
So it's kind of like because we would assume, even though it's not like the state elections are not electing people into the Bundestag.
No.
They are. I would imagine it would be unlikely if they did really, really well in the state election, one party, and then absolutely tanked it in September in the general election. Okay.
They thrive off momentum, these parties, and it's like it is if they do well in a state election, then it looks good, and then people like to vote for winners.
People really do like to vote for winners. It's basically just a big grand national.
Yeah.
We're at
here. So for some parties, it couldn't have been a better first election of the year.
Who are our winners? Who is on the rise?
So
and I would like some.
The 2 elections this last week were Baden-Württemberg and Rheinland-Pfalz, or Rheinland-Palatinate.
Palatinate, yes.
As it's called.
I do like to use those English terms because it sounds like something from the footnotes of Lord of the Rings.
The first of those was especially good for the Green Party because they have already been in power in Baden-Württemberg for 10 years.
Ooh.
And for the last 5 years, they were in a coalition with the CDU, the Greens, under State Premier Winfried Kretschmann.
Ah, yes.
He's now 72. And
that's too old, but continue.
And he's sort of like the German Joe Biden. He's sort of this guy who this kind of avuncular, friendly figure that everyone in Baden-Württemberg likes. He's extremely popular there. And you get that a lot with these state premiers, that they're very popular in their own state, even though their policies might not be that close to their own party. I mean, so
he's just down there in a very conservative state in the south of Germany, which is known for its kind of conservatism. Yeah. He is in a Green Party, which is supposed to be a bit more progressive, but he's possibly just doing his own thing, and everyone's being like, yeah that's what we want, a 72-year-old centrist white man, more of this, status quo, yes?
Yeah, pretty much. Great. You've got your finger on it there. And he's so and he won again, and not only did he win again, but the Greens actually increased their vote share by 2.3%.
Well done.
And so that puts them in a really strong position in that state to choose who they want to go into coalition with.
So who's on the docket for that?
Well, they could either.
Who are the parties in the blind date chairs on the other side of the panel? That would be a really good way of choosing coalition partners.
Well, because the CDU is the first one, which would be like just continuing with the government that has been that they had already. Status
quo, which we know we like.
Yeah,
possibly.
And that is probably what Kretschmann will do. But he could, if he wanted, go into a traffic light coalition.
Oh, you told me this last week. Yeah. So that would be with the SPD and the FDP.
Yes, that would be a sort of slightly more centre-lefty coalition, but not
neoliberal
And you have to like in at local level, all this politics is slightly different from a national level. So, and anyway, yeah. So the Greens doing very well, and
did they also do well in Rhineland-Pfalz?
they did all right. Not especially brilliantly, but they did fine. They got 9.3% there, increasing their vote share by 4 points.
Whoa.
Which is quite big. So they almost doubled, but they only got still only 9.3%.
Okay.
The winners in Rheinland-Pfalz was also the incumbent state premier, who was called Malu Dreyer of the SPD.
Okay. Also
popular in her own state. The SPD won again by 35.7%, with the CDU in 27.7%.
Okay.
But what was probably most significant was in both states, the CDU took more losses.
An absolute battering.
Yeah, possibly because of the corruption scandals that we were talking about last week. That did not go down well. It's not good to have a massive corruption scandal just a week before an election.
And not even any corruption scandal. See this pandemic that's been driving you all full mad for a year. These lads have made millions off those masks that you don't even want to put on your face, and they just turned Megan into a scaly lizard.
Exactly. Yeah. So in both elections, the CDU really felt that. And this has really depressed them, and now they're all soul searching, and
oh wow, a CDU, this soul searching of the CDU. Oh God.
And there's extra pressure on Armin Laschet, the newly elected leader of the CDU, because he's got to turn it around.
He can't turn it around. The man, no, I don't think he's got.
And within the CDU, CSU, the Conservative Coalition, they're yet to pick a chancellor candidate. So it's put extra pressure. It's given.
It's going to be Söder, isn't it?
It's given Söder, Markus Söder, the state premier of Bavaria, really a lot of he's okay, why don't you pick me? Because obviously no one's going to vote for anyone in the CDU. So yeah, so that's sort of what all this means. The next state election is in Sachsen-Anhalt in June, and that was much more likely to be not so good for the Greens.
Okay.
Because it's an East German state, and a lot of the East German states are not interested in the Green Party. They just historically hardly ever vote for them. And so that will be a real test to see whether, because in Baden-Württemberg that was obvious that the Greens were going to win, and everyone loves Kretschmann. But in Sachsen-Anhalt, don't know so much.
And when is Sachsen-Anhalt? Sorry, if you've literally just told me, then I didn't listen.
Early June. And
okay, God, way to go. Mind you, it'll probably be here. The way time is currently moving in a fortnight, as far as I can tell. Time has no fucking meaning anymore. Okay,
yeah.
I don't even like to ask, but what did our friends, the AfD, am I throwing up into my Megacan, or am I cautiously optimistic?
Taking another swig of your no, well, the AfD completely tanked. They lost even worse than the CDU.
Whoop, whoop.
They were the big losers of both elections. In Baden-Württemberg, they dropped to 9.7%. They were previously on about 15%. And in Rheinland-Pfalz, they dropped down to 8.3%, also below 10%, and losing 4 percentage points. So they were in both places they basically lost about a third of their voters, which is a big deal.
That is a big deal. Do you have any idea why? What are people what do people think might be the reason for this?
Well,
I can't really think about it.
Partly is the reason why the AfD did so well 5 years ago was 2016, and that was the year of the German refugee crisis, and there were loads and loads of refugees coming in from Syria and Afghanistan, and they really capitalized on that issue. And that was the first time they
capitalized on people's latent racism. Yes,
and that was in those two states. That was the first time they were ever up for election. So they were coming from 0 to 15%, and this time around they don't have that issue anymore. There were also polls that were saying that people aren't that interested in the issue of immigration at the moment. And what they have sort of spectacularly failed to do, the AfD, is to sort of capitalise on the anti-coronavirus sentiment, which actually started in Baden-Württemberg, the Querdenker. This sort of lateral thinkers movement. That movement started in Baden-Württemberg, but there were AFD like supporters amongst the protests there.
Yeah.
The AFD themselves, they were being criticised for not going far enough by the Querdenker, and criticised by everyone else just because everyone thinks they're Nazis.
Which, of course, are.
So they've done really, and also they really blamed the Verfassungsschutz, or they've blamed the AFD said that it's because the Verfassungsschutz what came out a few weeks ago saying that we are going to put the AFD under surveillance, and so they blamed the Verfassungsschutz on the fact that them doing so badly in these elections.
Yes, that's a staggering kind of sidestepping of any responsibility. It was the Verfassungsschutz because they wanted to put us under surveillance, because it just keeps coming out that so many of our members have really problematic links or history or whatever with Nazi organisations. It's their fault. It must be difficult. They are the sort of Jerry Adams are having to just basically run a Nazi far-right fascist party whilst trying to maintain in Germany, whilst trying to just deny all links to Nazism.
Yeah. And
and I don't think they're up for it.
Well, that's exactly within the AFD. This is the big conflict, right? There's like how do we
how Nazi
how can we because we obviously need some extremist voters to stay on our side, and so there are two camps in the AFD now, which is the camp around Jörg Meuthen, who's one of the leaders, and he's more sort of trying to make them look more like a pragmatic party that can govern, and everyone else, including people like Alice Weidel and Timo Kruppala and Gauland, the other one, the older fellow, Alexander Gauland, they're much more
like
sort of
the resuscitated kind of spirit of he's sort of okay.
And also weirdly, he's a like an Anglophile. He loves Britain and British things. He wears a tweed jacket everywhere because he likes British things so much.
Well, no wonder he loves fascism, because holy shit.
And he has like a really annoying tie which has got golden retrievers on it. Have you seen that? Okay.
Don't you touch golden retrievers, you horrible man. They're the most loving dogs. Oh, we had a golden retriever when I was growing up, and her name was Honeybun, and she was the antonym of the AfD. I cannot think of two things further apart on this earth.
Honeybun the golden retriever.
Honeybun the golden retriever. She was very, very lovely. And Alexander Gauland is a terrible fascist.
Yeah.
Ugh. Okay, but not maybe doing so well. I guess we'll maybe see what happens in Saxon-Anhalt.
Yeah, I mean, that will again be a big sort of test to see what if people really think that the AFD are extremists or not, and whether they're still willing to vote for them. So that's that.
All right.
That's your election roundup.
Well, there's going to be lots more of them. It's exciting.
Yeah, well, actually, because the next one is in Saxon-Anhalt, and then the rest of them are all on the same day. They're all
of them on the 26th of September.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
So that's the Bundestag.
Hope we're all still alive.
Yeah. I just want to tell you exactly which elections are happening on the 26th of September.
Go for it.
Right. So not only the federal government.
The big lads.
Yeah. It will be Berlin, Mecklenburg-Vorpommern and Thüringen are all voting on that day.
Ooh, that's big. 3
East German states and the federal government.
And I think Berlin also has local elections as well, do they?
Yeah, they have. So the Bezirksverordnetenversammlungen are also voting on that day.
Nice. Which means if you're a non-German passport holder like myself, you can vote.
Yeah.
It's exciting. You usually get a ballot automatically.
Yeah, so you can vote for who you want to be the mayor of Neukölln.
Yeah. I don't know who the mayor of Neukölln is currently. Fuck. I should know that. Anyway,
yeah, so there's that. And other news.
Yes.
I'm whipping through this, aren't I?
I don't know. I've no conception of time at all anymore.
So do you remember that there was a big scandal about a year ago with what was called the Hannibal Network?
I do, yes.
And it came out...
Not to be confused with Hannibal, who was one of the great Deutsch rap artists that Maisie introduced us to. That's Hannibal with a Y, and it's really enjoyable. You should listen to his album, Stufe Rot.
Right, yeah.
Segue.
Totally different Hannibal. This is Hannibal, the pseudonym used on a WhatsApp group by a certain soldier. And when this sort of scandal came out, and a lot of these soldiers were implicated in it, and they were basically preppers stockpiling weapons. Not only in the armed forces, some of them in police, some of them were just lawyers or just different people. About a few of them.
White men with some kind of connection to our legal and law enforcement and armed institutions.
And
great.
They had access to weapons and ammunition. It turned out that a lot of them had been stealing these things, or just sort of when they were going on training and whatever, and they were like putting a few packets of Semtex down their trousers and disappearing and then burying it in their garden along with all their Nazi paraphernalia. They were
so they had Nazi paraphernalia, so it wasn't just like we're the nice kind of preppers that are just worried about coronavirus.
No, they were. This was kind of a big scandal, and it was the Tats actually reported on this very extensively and really well. So there was a verdict last Friday for one of these people. He's called Philip S.
That's another name on our roster. No more Stefans, no more Phillips.
A soldier in the KSK, which is the elite commando force, like the anti-terrorism force of
what? The anti-terrorism force? Oh.
Yeah, like when if there was a terrorist attack in Germany, then the KSK
it would be these lads.
Yeah,
we know this.
Yeah.
It's the right-wing lads. We can't keep having them chasing each other around because then nobody gets caught. Except he did get caught. Is he being made an example of as one of these right-wing terrorists that are Germany's major terrorist problem at the moment? Nazi people responsible for the murder of millions, or like not millions of people. Well, depending on how far we go back. In the last 2 years, just awful, awful things.
He got 2-year suspended sentence and the law that he broke was illegally possessing weapons. He was not convicted on any terrorist charge or extremist charge.
I don't even know what to say to that. Like how much he had a hole in his garden filled with weapons and Nazi things.
Yeah, he had 2 kilograms of professional explosives, several thousand pieces of rifle and pistol ammunition, an AK-47, a crossbow, a smoke grenade, and various other firearms and firearm parts, all buried in his garden. The court decided that he had broken the law because you're not allowed to have an AK-47 in your garden, but that was the only law that he'd broken. And and he has to leave the Bundeswehr. He's not allowed to be a soldier anymore.
Oh, but that's allow me to breathe a massive sigh of relief. That's unbelievable. That is unbelievable.
Yeah, and it was I kind of missed this, but this was all like not really hardly reported because it was just like, oh, that just happened. And quite a lot of things came out. A lot of soldiers had to testify in the during the court case, and they were asked about, whether anyone had sort of noticed whether he was particularly Nazi, and they said no, we didn't really notice.
I wonder why.
They said he was conservative politically, and at one point someone said that he was conservative like the CDU 15 years ago. That was his definition of conservative, and that was it. There was like no, and then the judge kind of in the argument basically said, yeah, well, you wouldn't expect a lot of left-wing people to be in the army, would you? It was just sort of, there was a stunning...
No, which is why we need to dismantle the entire institution, my friends, and build it up so it actually serves the people. My God, that's a telling statement. That is... What do they think the role of the army and the police is? Just like hoarding weapons and closing down small alternative bars in Neukölln?
Well, I don't know. Apparently, yeah. I mean, you might have heard there was this in Nordrhein-Westfalen. There was quite a lot of discussion about whether or not how right-wing certain police officers are. And they did an inquiry, and the inquiry concluded that, there were a few individuals who were a bit right-wing, but there's nothing like a Nazi network. That was the conclusion of the inquiry.
Who did the inquiry?
The state of North Rhine-Westphalia. Yeah.
So Nazi hoarder man, he gets 2 years suspended sentence. Brilliant. And he does have to leave the army because maybe... we shouldn't be arming him to the teeth and allowing him to prance about in a uniform saying that he's serving us.
Exactly.
Right.
And also, this is the other slight scandal with all this is that about a year ago, they announced an amnesty for if any soldiers had any weapon in their house that they weren't supposed to have, there was going to be like a no questions asked amnesty, and you could just bring them back and that'd be fine, you know? The guy who ordered that, the officer, whoever ordered that, is now under pressure to resign, because if this Philip S., this guy who was convicted last Friday, if he had followed that amnesty, no one would ever have caught him. But he didn't follow the amnesty. But he could have just given his AK-47 back, and it would have been.
Guys, this is not like school textbooks or library books that people have borrowed and then it's gone too far. These are people willingly. I obviously have loads of books from school. Maybe even schools I don't work in anymore in my house, right? Because I've taken them home to read them and stuff. It's not like I've taken, like, there's certain things you're just not allowed to take home. Like AK-47s, I wouldn't be allowed to take my students home. There's none of them knocking about. Like, that would be deeply unethical and worrying, right. And I should go to prison.
Right.
For more than not going to prison for 2 years.
Yeah. This is the commander. He's called Markus Kreitmeier. He ordered this amnesty. He's a KSK commander. Yeah, it's a bit weird. And apparently, according to these soldiers testifying, they said a lot of the time it is quite easy if you wanted to, during a training training exercise, to, you know, put a bit of Semtex down your pants and walk home with it, and no one would really notice, he said. And yeah, so it is maybe a bigger problem than we know. And the bigger question,
I'm fairly sure I know. I have some conception of the problem.
The bigger question is, why would you do that? Like, why would you take it home? And obviously, if you are taking it home, you must be, because at some level, you do not trust the state of Germany. You don't trust the democratic order.
Yeah.
You want to have guns and ammunition in your house in case you want to kill a lot of people at any point in the future. But those questions are not asked by any prosecutors or the courts, in this case the court.
What, they didn't ask him what he was going to do with it?
No, this isn't like, well they didn't. Yeah, he said I don't. The reason why he didn't give it back in the amnesty is because he didn't trust his commanding officers. Like, there's no deeper
interrogation of these systems,
curiosity about why someone would, like, ideologically not want to give the guns back.
Well, because he's oh god, this is just endless.
Yeah,
I don't even have to deal with the horror of this as somebody who is typically one of these horrible men's victims. Like, it's so awful. How can you, after all of that stuff about Hanau and everything and the problem with right-wing extremism, let this guy saunter off with such a bullshit sentence? And I don't know, like, obviously I understand that he wasn't charged with any of that, but that, again, why not? That just seems insane to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, why would you have a court case like that if that is the point of these court cases, is to find out more? They're not.
And this is the thing, and we can, you know, the mainstream media and politicians can talk about never again and blah, 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 blah until they're blue in the face. But, like, this is exactly the problems that we have. That we have these super conservative, super right-wing guys with loads of access to weapons, and we're not even asking the right questions so that we could even deal with this in a meaningful way or learn anything from this. What we seem to have been is like, whoops-a-daisy, some lad had an AK-47 in his backyard, but we told him not to do that.
Yeah.
And he's had to lose his job. Like, what bigger questions of, like, soul searching as a country is that leading us to?
Yeah, and as you said, like, if it was any other ideology, if it was a Muslim ideology, or even like a Kurdish ideology, or, you know, like Kurdish independent group or something, they would be a terrorist charge straight away.
Like, the fact that
you'd be done for planning a terrorist attack, even if they couldn't prove a particular attack. You'd be done for it.
Yeah.
Anyway, do you want some good news?
I do. Yeah. How's your Mega?
Lovely. Once you get used to it, that's
fine. The way with Megas. You can really smash them. So, apart from those gold Krone ones that we had, remember, that had that was the worst thing I've ever tasted.
Yeah.
So don't do those ones, people.
I mean,
Anyway.
I have to say, you always bring a really good quality of Mega here.
I am...
You never bring like a cheap knockoff one.
No, it's because they're terrible. I did bring those Goldkrone ones, if you remember, and we could barely drink them. And it was like, I didn't think something good was happening. But now I'm like, I am an expert. I just love them. I love them so much. Like, there's something about like the squatness of the can. I love a can. Like, I love a can of Coke, and you don't get the cans of Coke in this shape here. Yeah. Oh God, I used to work in this mad school in London in our English department, and it was just wild. Like, it was a Friday afternoon, the wheels were just coming off the wagon, and then one of the English department would usually go out on the Diet Coke run and would like deliver it to your classroom, and you'd be like sweating and red, and like you were just trying to keep these kids alive until the bell rang. And then they'd just like bring you in a can of Coke, and you're like, oh my God. Anyway, sorry, that was tangential.
Well, yeah.
Good news? You said you had some good news for me?
Well, it's nice news. It's the fact that Özlem Türeci and Ugo Şahin, the two scientists who developed the BioNTech-Pfizer vaccine, have been awarded with Germany's highest national honour today, the Knight Commander's Cross.
What?
Don't ask me what it is in German. I'm looking at an English article. But that's what it's called. The Knight Commander's Cross.
Oh, knight, like a K, like...
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Not at night.
Yeah. The Night Watchman.
No, the night
I was like, what?
No.
Okay, that's good. That's lovely. And I think their vaccine is like, I really don't want to enter into the whose vaccine is better than anyone's, because I will literally take anything. Anything you have going.
And so
but theirs is very good, apparently. The Rolls
very
Royce.
good, yeah. That's the one that everyone gets in America most of the time.
Yeah, well, America and the UK have somewhat, if you're being pernickety. Well, no, I'm pleased that loads of people are getting vaccinated there, because their policies regarding corona seem to be just insane. So that's good. Good, they got their little medals of honor. Does Angie give you those? Or who gives them to you? Is it that man? Frank Walter?
Frank Walter
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Way!
The president of Germany. People always forget who the president of Germany is.
Me particularly. Don't feel bad.
It's partly because he doesn't really do very much. He's just have this sort of ceremonial role, and you don't really. There's not much. You're supposed to be kind of like a what do you call it? Like a moral authority for the country. Like you just make pronouncements. He does a speech at Christmas, and then he gives awards to people. That's mainly what his job is.
I'd like that job. Maybe they could give that to me.
Well, actually, Kretschmann, Winfried Kretschmann, the state premier, people are already talking about him being possibly the future president, because it's the kind of thing that he would be good at.
Okay. I also think I would be good at it. And I would instigate a policy of, you get your medal, the Night Watchman or whatever it's called, and you get a crisp Megacan.
Straight
and
out
maybe
the
a hug
fridge.
if it's peacetime again. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it is nice the way the Order of Merit is given out. Anyone can nominate someone for an Order of Merit in Germany.
I'm gonna nominate you, Konrad.
And then you kind of, if you've done like loads of stuff for charity, then you can get nominated by someone, and then
that's nice.
And they give out quite a few every year, but this is obviously quite a big one because they've saved a lot of people's lives.
They absolutely have. That is. I hope they're very, very happy with their medals, maybe enjoying a little Megacan together in their marital home.
Yeah, with that lovely image.
Yeah, I'm not even finished my Mega. This is like...
Haven't you? Oh.
No, but thank you very much to the Dorf, some boomers from Dorf.
Yeah, thanks very much.
It's funny to give it its full title. And hopefully, not looking at those numbers, it might be a little while longer, but we will all at some point be able to go there for a delicious unpasteurized Pilsner Urquell or a Megacan in a glass.
And sweat on the dance floor. It's a very sweaty dance floor.
Yes. It really, oh my God, I want to feel like other people's sweat in my face again. Like I really do. Oh, I can't wait. I cannot wait. But in the meantime, everyone, we've just got to batten down the hatches, masks on, Mega's in.
Yeah.
Stay healthy.
Stay healthy. Thanks very much for listening.
Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.